Hey girl, so glad that you tuned in. My name is Bethany and this is the Make Up Your Mind channel. You're listening to episode number 29. Whether you're actually putting on your makeup, maybe you're getting ready for work or for school, at home, wherever life finds you today, I hope that you remember that there are people that are for you, cheering you on to succeed. Today, I hope I get to be one of those people, standing like a cheerleader on the sideline of your life, reminding you and helping you all day long to make up your mind about the small things that add up to huge things later on. Girl, I can't believe it, but last week was our very last week talking about identity, at least for now. So today's episode is going to be kind of a one-off because we have the holiday coming up, Easter. I'm so excited. Today's episode is titled Chocolate Bunnies and Rainbow Eggs, so let's get to it. Okay, so we have been talking about identity for a long time, and I know that the vast majority of my listeners would consider themselves Christians or at least going to church of some kind. But for those of you who maybe don't identify with that, I'm sorry, today is probably going to be one of those episodes that leans a lot more into my Christian beliefs than possibly some of the other episodes that we've done. But this really matters to me. So I'm sorry, and I think you all know by now that I'm going to do what I want. So welcome. I'm sure you are aware this coming Sunday is Easter Sunday. Easter is a holiday that means a lot to Christians. Some of you guys thought that maybe it was just about rainbow eggs and chocolate bunnies, or for some of us that are older, maybe it's about getting the perfect dress to wear so we can take those curated Instagram photos for our feed. Or maybe you're of the mind that it's just like any other Sunday. So you just throw on a hoodie and walk out the door to church just like any other Sunday. Or maybe you don't even go to church, or maybe you're watching online and you just drag yourself out of bed and crack an eye open and you're like kind of participating but barely. I'm here to say that what if this year for Easter we took a little bit different of an approach? This is me talking to you as though you were my youth student in my youth ministry, or even if you were just sitting right across the couch from me. What if this year was different? What if we set up this week intentionally to think about and meditate on what Jesus actually did for us? What might change about this coming Easter? I think we've all been there, kind of gotten burned out on the story of the cross. It became just that to us, a story. It's kind of just been something that we know about that doesn't really affect us at all on a day-to-day basis. Just super dry, and like the details don't even really mean very much. But you guys, we have to let this mean more to us. For me, this event, this story, this happening in history is everything. It changes literally everything for me. It translates into every area of my life. It informs every decision that I make. It affects how I interact with others, and it holds the highest place in my heart. Today's episode, I'm just going to share with you some of the things that stand out to me this year about the Easter story. I think every year my own personal reflections change based on what's happening in the world and what I'm walking through at the time. But this year, I'm just going to share my reflections with you on Easter. So here goes. Jesus was a man that lived 2,000 years ago. Even more than that, actually. More than 2,000 years ago on this earth. He came as a baby to the world from heaven. And I know, that is the Christmas story. But we have to start there. What I've been thinking about is, why the heck in all of God's power did he not take the easy road? Why did he come as a baby to this earth and live for 33 whole years before the plan of action really took place? I mean, talk about a long wait for a brutal ending. He could have totally taken the shortcut and just pop down here as a man, not as a baby, and gotten it over with super quick. But no, he chose to come to this earth and live and experience life just as we would. What does that say to me? It says a lot of things. One, it says that God doesn't take shortcuts. I think that's really important for us to know and remember. When we're walking through different seasons in our life, God doesn't take shortcuts. He does it the right way and he does it well. He doesn't take the easy road out. Something else it says to us is that God follows through with his word. He follows through with what he commits to. He doesn't leave loose ends untied. The fact that Jesus lived a full life on this planet actually says to me that he's committed to us. He's committed to us full send. It tells me that he knows every little detail of what we experience on this planet. Sickness, disease, trauma, fear, sadness, relational issues, all of it, even pain and even death. He knows where you're at right now. He's literally been there. Sure, culture was different, but all the feelings that you experience on a day-to-day basis, all the hard stuff, Jesus has literally been there. And it says to me that Jesus has immense compassion for you right where you are at right now. So girl, let that sink in this Easter. Here's another thought that's been heavy on my heart this year. He walked on this planet and he had so many friends and so many followers. They knew that he was the Messiah or the Savior. There's so much back history to who the Messiah was for these people at this time, but they believed that he was going to set them free from the oppression that they were feeling from their government. If you want to ask your youth pastor more questions about that whole back history, I'm sure they would be thrilled to go through that with you. But at this point, the Jews thought that Jesus was here to deliver them from their oppressive government. There would have been several, if not all of his followers that thought that that was what he was going to do. He was going to ride into Jerusalem and set them free from Rome. In Jesus' day, the Roman government was truly oppressive. It was a really hard place to be. Jesus had a different mission. It was completely different to what the disciples and all of the followers thought his mission was going to be. Jesus never once challenged the Roman government. No, he was there on a different mission. He had different plans, and his plans were to bring reform, but to bring reform to our hearts. His plan was so much bigger than rescuing the Jews for just this one moment in time. His plan was to bring restoration and reconciliation and rescuing to all of humanity for all time. He was going to lift the real oppression, which was sin and death. I'm just going to say right now that I actually might develop some haters from what I'm about to say. But again, these are just my reflections for this year for Easter. I think some of us in our society today have gotten our tail feathers ruffled at our government. I don't care which side you land on. I think that we feel oppressed, and I think we feel confined by the restrictions that have been put on us as guardrails. And sure, I agree with you. These are really weird times that we're living in. But what if we just kept the main thing the main thing? What if we lifted our eyes off of the here and now in this moment in time? My youth pastor used to say, get your binoculars off of the roadmap. Because what happens when you have your binoculars on something that's too close? You can't see anything clearly. What if we got our vision focused on the real big picture, not just what's happening here and now on our planet? In many ways, we're losing our voice as Christians to those who are lost around us by drawing distinct lines in the sand. Feel what you want about what's going on in our government, but let's keep the main thing the main thing. Let's talk about what the main thing is. Jesus said the greatest commandment is to love God and love your neighbor. But we can't love our neighbors if we're pushing them away by what we're saying on social media and in our conversations. Pushing someone away by drawing lines in the sand is never what Jesus did. Let's recognize what the eternal plan is and give that our attention. Here's the last thing that I think stands out to me this Easter. Even in his last hours on earth, Jesus didn't do a thing to resist what was about to happen. He was literally God here as a human. He could have just snapped and it all would have gone away, Thanos style, you know? But he didn't. He knew that in order for us to be cleansed, he had to go through with it. He knew that the evil that's in our hearts had to be taken care of so that we would forever be able to be in the presence of God who is holy, who cannot be near sin. He knew he had to do what he came to do. Because we forget sometimes that we actually can't do it on our own. We can't make our own way to God. No matter how good we think we are, we can't do it. Before Jesus came, the people of God had to make sacrifices on behalf of the sin and the evil that they had done. If they wanted to get into the presence of God, there had to be blood shed on their behalf, because the payment for sin is death. And if it wasn't going to be your death for your sin, there had to be another that would sacrifice themselves in your place. So for years, it was innocent animals being sacrificed over and over again for the sins of humanity. The poor animals, they were so innocent, but that's just it. They were innocent. They were free from sin. And so finally, Jesus came to deal with that once and for all. He was the perfect sacrifice that stepped in to take my place. Never again will a human have to pay for the consequence of sin. You guys, it's literally so humbling. I owed a debt to God for what I've done, and Jesus stepped in and said, I'll take care of it. I'll pay that debt. We cannot let our hearts get numb to that. He literally walked toward the most painful debt because he cared that much about us. And then he not only took the penalty, but you guys, 3 days later, he rose from the freaking dead. Have you ever been around someone that's actually died? I have. I remember seeing my great grandpa passed away, and it was kind of scary, and I was not expecting him to sit back up and be alive and okay again. No freaking way. 3 days later, Jesus rose from the dead. What does that even mean to us? It means he has the power over death. It means that death itself was actually reversed. Jesus not only gave us our payment for our sin, but our freedom from death. You guys, this has so many implications, but as my mom always says, once we follow Jesus, nothing truly bad can ever happen to us again. Sure, stuff happens in life that's not good. Sickness happens, loved ones die, fear and relationship trauma still exist. All that stuff still happens. But the real bad stuff, you guys, the separation from God will never happen again. We will never be truly alone again. We will always be deeply loved, and we will never truly have an end to our days. You guys, I love it. I'm so incredibly passionate about the gospel, which is the good news of what Jesus has done for us. And I hope today that this put a spark in you about what this weekend is about. It's about the good news about what Jesus did for us. I hope that infuses you with joy this week. So my encouragement to you is to take some time to reflect as you go throughout your week and let the story of Easter impact your heart. Don't just let it go by. Let the freedom bring you joy. Let the peace of what Jesus has sacrificed for you invade your heart, and let it speak to others around you. I pray that the joy would heal every hurting place in your heart. Girl, it's been so good to be with you this week. Remember that you are deeply loved, you are cared for, and you are valuable. Be sure to subscribe wherever you're consuming this content, whether it's on YouTube or on one of the podcast platforms or IGTV. Share it with someone to give the gospel legs, and let's continue to do this thing together. Girl, is so good. Again, catch you next week.